So hello, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Exemplary Dual Enrollment Award webinar. We're excited to launch our second year of this award, but our first year for early college, high school, middle college, high school, and our alternative education schools with dual enrollment. And my name is Diane Crum, and I'm an education's program consultant at the California Department of Education. And I'm joined by my wonderful, that I probably couldn't do my job without them, educational partners. And I'll hand it over to Dr. Naomi Castro to introduce herself and then to Melissa.
Hello, Naomi Castro, Chief Program Officer for the Career Ladders Project and Dual Enrollment Evangelist. And so nice to see so many familiar faces and names in the Zoom. And I'll hand it over to my dear colleague, Melissa.
Thank you, Naomi. So I'm Melissa Madigan, Executive Director of CCEMC and Dual Enrollment Enthusiast, and I'm excited to have this webinar.
Great, awesome. I'm also joined, I think, by two colleagues from the CDE. Well, one is my administrator, Allegra. Allegra, are you here? If you're here, you can go ahead and unmute and say hello to everyone. She might not be on yet. And also, if you got the grant, you probably are familiar with the name of Justin Keith Line, our wonderful analyst. He'll be joining us a little bit later. So Justin's, I thought maybe it'd be nice to put a name to the face, a face to the name for Justin. So let's start here for eligibility. Oh, and I do apologize if there was some confusion about I guess when I sent the email out, I got the time right, but when I wrote it in the newsletter, I messed it up. And the only thing I can blame that on is COVID brain, if that is a real thing, because after coming back from a conference, I got COVID. So when I wrote that newsletter, I was suffering from that. So I really apologize for this confusion if you were in it. But we will be holding two webinars today, one at 12 and one at 1, to kind of alleviate that confusion. So let's first talk about eligibility this year. So when we created the award, we decided that we would have comprehensive high schools with dual enrollment programs be eligible for the first year, and then we would the second year, middle college high schools, early college high schools, and alternative education schools with dual enrollment programs would be eligible, and we'll switch off every year. And also, just to note, this is a school-based award. We learned this to make sure I say this year, because we did have districts apply last year. This is a school-based award, so districts may not apply. Each school in your district should apply for this award. So that's our eligibility for this year. Oh, and I forgot to mention, we will have a Q&A. We are in a meeting format, so not in a webinar format. So if you can just put your questions in the chat, and we will be sure to answer during Q&A portion towards the end of the webinar hour. So the application timeline, it was released on September 15th. The applications must be received at the CDE by 4 p.m. on November 30th. And the reason why it's 4 p.m. and not 11:59 p.m. is that the new online software, Snap Survey, that we use to do the applications, somebody actually physically has to be in the office to turn it off. So that's why 4 p.m. So not at 11:59, but at 4 p.m. That survey will be turned off. We'll review the applications in December of 2023 and January of 2024, so about 2 months of reading. And then we'll announce the awardees in January of 2024. Towards the end, though, so probably the last day of January, just to give us enough time to read everything. So the submission process, it's a two-part application. It's the online application. There's a written narrative portion, and then there's evidence to back up the written narrative. So the award application, I dropped those in the chat at the beginning. So hopefully, Melissa, do you still have them? I don't know because we stopped the recording, and then
Yeah,
so I'm not sure. Okay, great. So the actual RFA page is there, the link to that, and then the actual award, the survey, the online application is the link for that is there as well. The evidence there, so the evidence must be in a PDF form and in a single file less than 30 megabytes. And if you can please label, one thing we learned from last year is to please label your evidence. So that way, when the readers read your narrative and then look at your evidence, they can match it up. Okay, they can match it up. Because sometimes I have readers within the CDE who may not be as familiar with dual enrollment as other readers. So just make sure you write, you can just handwrite it if you want, but just what the evidence is showing. So we're going to start just with the actual application process. So the first part of the application will be like your school code, the CDS code, your school name, program content, contact when you go in there. And then it will start with then it will start with uploading your evidence. So before you go into the application, make sure you have your PDF already ready about your evidence, because that's the first thing it's going to ask for after your CDS code and all that. And you would upload your evidence, and then you would start on the narrative portion. So the first prompt that comes up, the first narrative prompt, is about the overview of your program. So it asks you to provide an overview of your dual enrollment program, including the vision, structure, and student population served by your program. And then it's also helpful in describing the populations served to disaggregate, and also to have a comparison population, such as students in the general population not served by dual enrollment, or the community in which the students live. And just a tip, what we found last year on this is that applicants may have described the vision, but they stopped there. So please make sure that you're answering the entire prompt. So you're talking about your vision, how your dual enrollment program is structured, and also talk about your student population. Okay, and for this first narrative, there is no evidence needed, and otherwise we'd talk about that. And now I'm going to turn it over to my screen here. I believe it's Melissa now. We'll talk about partnerships, or Naomi.
I think this one is me. So I'll talk a little bit about partnerships, and just to remind everybody, it's for the exemplary award. And so while you may have a partnership or two, it's really important that you describe them and detail them as well as you can. So one characteristic of exemplary dual enrollment programs is a strong collaborative relationship between the high school, the college, families, community members, and industry partners. And you need to write a narrative thoroughly describing, in depth, the partnerships that your school has. Diane, can you go to the next slide?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. And so examples, you need to provide at least two, and they would be how you are sharing your resources, how you are sharing your staff, shared professional development, the MOUs that you have written, board policies, commitment letters, and those are just a few examples. If you have other examples, please use those instead. And again, it's two, but we need both the narrative and the actual example of what you're talking about within the narrative. So we would want the actual MOU. We would want to know exactly how you're sharing your staff, not just the narrative. You need to provide the artifact showing how it's shared, if that makes sense.
And no, Naomi, before I move on, because I know last year a lot of people did upload their CCAP agreements, and what did we decide about that? If because we do ask for an MOU.
A CCAP agreement is an MOU, so yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, so just and just to mention that the CCAP agreement can be an example of evidence as well. Okay.
MOUs, agreements, those are all synonyms for contracts. They're all contracts.
And then for anybody wanting to add more, absolutely. You need a minimum of 2. If you have a truly exemplary program and you want to share all the different ways in which you are collaborating with very strong partnerships, absolutely.
Okay, moving on to equity, and I believe this is going to be Naomi.
Sure, thank you so much. So yeah, so this again, I love how Melissa is reminding us this is for exemplars, right? So we really want to see how your partnership is addressing equity. And that doesn't mean that you have like perfect parity of all representation. It might mean that you have identified a student group who is not being represented, and you can talk us through like how you identify groups and then what your plan is. Like that is awesome. That's exciting. So we want to be able to see that, right? And our student demographics and our interventions are dynamic and they're always changing. So we'd love to see that. But really, what the goal would be is to have the dual enrollment program mirror your student population. And so well, let's go to the evidence, and then I'll give some hot tips. So we need one artifact, and at least one. And then here's some great examples: disaggregated enrollment and course success data, the number of college units that each student attempts and completes, high school graduation and completion of pathways and college and career credentials, local goal setting strategies. These would all be kind of evidence, right? You can also use some of your own documents. So maybe in your vision, you have equity as a goal. Maybe you have a shared vision statement with your college partner. That could also be some evidence as well. And like in terms of hot tips, so remember, your readers are reading through lots and lots and lots of applications. So we want, you would want yours to stand out. And one of the things that I found frustrating with some of the applications I read is that there would be a statement that says, our dual enrollment participation mirrors our high school population. That's awesome and exciting. And they would provide no evidence of that, right? So that sounds great, but can you give us some numbers? Can you give us some comparisons? Are you talking about it mirrors your population racially? Does it mirror them in terms of gender? We know there's a big issue with male students being underrepresented. Are you digging deeper into equity? Are you looking at English language learner representation, students with disabilities? So really like talk us through what that means and give us some numbers and percentages so we can really like see what you're talking about. Paint the picture for us. Okay, next slide. And I think this was mine as well. So integration is the way we say it in a short way, right? And that can throw people off. So some of the applications we read last year, it seems like they stopped reading at the title and then they just wrote about racial integration, which is lovely and awesome. But that's actually not what this section is about. This section is about how is your school integrating dual enrollment into the regular way that your high school does business and your college partner into the regular way that they do business. So instead of dual enrollment being like a siloed standalone program, it's just like this is a regular way of us operating our educational institutions. So how is it part of our strategic systemic approach to increasing college going? So if we go to the next slide, we can have some examples. So examples of integration, your plans. We write so many plans and we sometimes wonder who's reading these. We're reading them. We're your readers for this award. So we will read them. So strategic plans, LCAPs. You can also use your college's documents, right? So your college has an equity plan. They have a educational master plan. Maybe there's commitment letters between your governing boards. There's like maybe the college has some guided pathways documents that talk about dual enrollment being an integral part of that. And then for hot tips in this section, I would say, especially for some of these very, very long documents, my recommendation would be in your evidence. So your evidence might be a PDF or something like that, is maybe link to the very long documents and then like highlight and include some quotes, right? So from page 4 of our LCAP, it talks about a line item for a dual enrollment coordinator, or whatever that integration evidence is. I would caution against including the entire gigantic report or plan. Please link to it. That's fantastic, right? Because then your reader can go and dig down deeper into it if they choose. But we also, I have read a lot of LCAPs as part of this application, and then when you're searching for this giant document for that one nugget of dual enrollment, it could be a little challenging. Yeah, and I think that was it for my part there.
All right. So go ahead, Diane.
Oh no, I was just going to say back to Melissa.
Back to me. So dual credit is really by Ed Code based within the K-12 district, and it's a district decision on how each district approaches giving high school credit to the credit earned in the college classes. I will say that it has been a long-standing practice that there has been, for every one college unit, the 3.33 high school units given. And that is not an Ed Code. That is a district decision. And it is a long-standing practice done by many, many schools. So I want to say that first, like, you're not going to be able to find this in an Ed Code, but if you have communication with other districts that are doing it because you're not, that is what they'll probably say to you. So Diane, if you go to the next page, we can talk about like how you show this. So examples will include your district, the school, and board policy. There would need to be a board policy that you would upload to this, and then we would want to see it actually in action. So again, like Naomi has said, these are great to say you're doing dual credit, you're giving this to this. We actually need to see the evidence of that. So we would want a student transcript, and you need to somehow remove the student's name and any identifier for that student. But we do, the award would need to actually see the evidence that the district is awarding the dual credit. So, and this
just to, if I can just jump in, please don't give us the names on the transcripts. No. Please.
No. And then somebody actually just wrote in the chat, should we include names and titles of individuals who oversee dual enrollment policies? Sure. If you want to put those in there, that would be fine. Okay. So the next section is actually really gigantic. It's the outcomes. So I am going to read it. We'll talk about ways in which you will show your evidence of the outcomes that's talked about right here. So you're going to explain narratively how shared student data is utilized by the high school and the college to review and improve dual enrollment. The evidence should just demonstrate how outcome data clearly shows evidence of equitable high achievement levels for success, promoted by data sharing processes, highlighted by outcomes such as degrees, certificate, grade point averages, course completion, number of units for all student subgroups of the school population when compared to general population of high school and community college. That's a huge encompassing section. So as an example, you need at least 2 artifacts of the actual evidence to back up and to support the narrative that you choose to write upon. Collaborative review of data by partners. And in here it says such as meeting minutes, shared data reports, or data dashboards. I'll give you an actual example. I think it would be exemplary that the data from the students' success in their classes is shared, and collaborated on every semester. And that if you notice that you have a math class, 30 students were enrolled, only 10 successfully completed, you came together as a group, you looked at that data, you then implemented whatever you needed, you felt was lacking and might help best support the students. That all needs to be documented. There needs to be this showing that you're collecting the data, you're sharing the data, you have meeting minutes, and not just that, but what was discussed in the meeting minutes that will then help and improve the dual enrollment. And Naomi, I'm definitely going to ask you to chime in as well, because I know that you have, this is a wheelhouse for you as well.
Oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, it in the narrative slide, it sounds like a lot, but you all look at that. Like this is information that you use, so just pass it along in your application. You look at your course success rates all the time, and hopefully, what you do is you share that. You and your college colleagues sit down and look at it together. So what are those spreadsheets that you're looking at? And this can be disaggregated. It can also be aggregated. One thing that we've seen consistently across the state is that students in dual enrollment tend to outperform adult students at the college. And we also tend to see that when it's disaggregated by subgroup. So subgroup A, like the high school subgroup, Latino male students, for example, will often outperform Latino male adult students at the college. Like if you want to get that granular, like we are all about it. Like we want to see that. But if you just want to give aggregate success rates, that's fine too. If you have some things that you brag about, right? Like how many students complete an associate's degree? How many students get certificate? Like let us know. Like those are all fantastic outcomes. So yeah, don't skimp in the narrative may have limited characters, but give us tons of evidence and then summarize in that narrative. We want to see it.
Melissa was Naomi pathways.
Yeah. Although again, Melissa has done tons of pathways work. The thing about pathways that makes me sad is that we all use the word and we use it differently, and we think we know what we're talking about, but we're talking about different things. So when we talk about a pathway design for dual enrollment, we mean that it goes beyond the pathway itself, goes beyond the high school, right? So if students have 2 dual enrollment courses, I'm sure at your institutions they probably have more, but just for example, they have 2 dual enrollment courses. Where do those courses lead on at the college? Like, is it part of a skills certificate? Is it general education? Is it a specific degree program? Is it an ADT? All of that kind of stuff, right? So the important thing is the pathway doesn't end with that capstone class or that concentrator class if we're talking about CTE. The pathway goes all the way into post-secondary. So let's see some great examples. A map, back one. There we go. Like you could provide, so at least one artifact, but you could provide a pathways map. Plenty of you have done these yourselves, and you might even have it as your master schedule, like where you're, taking those sticky notes and moving them all around. But then please don't leave it at that pathway ending at the senior year. Where does it go? Where does the pathway lead to after they graduate from high school? At pathway maps, plenty of folks have pathway advertising material or collateral information for parents and for students, things like that say, hey, in this pathway you get X number of college credit and you can transfer here, here, and here, right? So all of those things are really nice evidence of pathways.
And then, Naomi, can I add to this as well?
Please.
I tend to think that this is also an area where there can be a link between this and partnerships. And I think that within the local context of wherever the district is or the school is that the pathway is happening, that there may be some partnerships with community-based organizations. And so if you could link those two, that this might be a great place to do that.
And potentially employers, right? So
yes.
if it's a CTE or career ed pathway, you might have some really strong work-based learning and employer partnerships. So yes. And student supports. Oh, this one is hard and we love it. And we know how incredibly important it is. So of course, promising practices show that embedding student supports in dual enrollment is not something extra. That's the job. That's what we've signed up for. And so we want that kind of description. And I think like in terms of a hot tip before we get to the evidence, sometimes folks have a challenge with the term embedded, right? So what does it mean to be embedded student supports? And we, just so you know, the readers do get together beforehand and we calibrate on our responses, right? But so embedded supports is like it's this, if the student has to go out and do something extra, that is definitely not embedded. So if a student has to, I'm going to give an extreme example, if they have to leave their high school where the course is offered and go to the college to get tutoring, that's a great student support. It's not embedded, right? It on the other end, right? If there is a peer mentor who hangs out in many of the class sessions and like works with the students and like texts them when there's study groups meeting, and like really like in the class, like kind of goes around like, hey, did you understand what the professor just said just there? You got that look. That is an extreme example of awesome embedded supports. And then of course most supports are kind of somewhere in between. And these supports could be supports with enrolling in dual enrollment, but also don't neglect those academic supports as well. So let's look at some examples. Job descriptions of people whose job it is to provide those supports, that could be really exciting. And sometimes those are really insightful. The schedule of how students receive those supports, if they have a regular counselor visit coming to their class, what is that rotation? What does it look like? So what's the kind of evidence? Oh, here's the counseling schedule where they go, where you can see clearly that they're going to the student courses. And then we also said, that survey results or student testimonials would also be acceptable. In fact, that'd be kind of cool. And then it's something that also kind of like, as Melissa had mentioned earlier, kind of calls back to the partnership. If you can demonstrate that, yes, some of these supports are shouldered or done by the high school and some are done by the college, and we coordinate, like we work together on that. That to me, that's exemplar right there. So that's the kind of thing that we're looking for. Anything else, Melissa, anything to add into supports?
No, I think you mentioned it when it was truly the exemplary pathway, and the fact that it is both. It's both the college and the high school doing it together. That's all.
So okay, awesome, folks. Yep. Thank you so much, Melissa and Naomi. The last thing I want to go over is not to neglect looking at the rubric. So there is at the end of the RFA, the rubric on what the readers will be grading you on or scoring your application on is located in the back of the RFA. And so if you just go across, so exemplary, again, this is the exemplary award, and you do not have to be exemplary in every category to get the exemplary award. You could be working towards something promising, or you could be emerging or limited, or you just didn't provide evidence. So when we look at, for example, and this is where when we were talking about exemplary, we promote partnerships between the school district and the college. But if you look over here under 0 points, if you only talk about your community, your college partner and your high school partner or district partner, you're going to get 0 points because it says evidence only demonstrates partnership between the high school and the college. So we're trying to go through that the partnership is between the school, the college, families, and community organizations. And it could be simply if you have like a back to school night or like a dual enrollment night, that is a partnership with your families. Make sure you include that in there. when you're writing your narrative or providing evidence. So I just wanted to point out, please go back and make sure you have the rubric there when you're writing your narrative to see what we're going to be grading. It's not grading, sorry, scoring your application on. Melissa and Naomi, did you want to add anything else about that? No? Okay. Moving on. So now it's time for you to ask your questions. And I think we do have some in the chat. Melissa, are you going to be filling that, or do you want me to do that? Or Justin? Actually, Justin's on now. So
we've actually been answering them as we've been going, I believe.
Oh,
and I've been entering the 2 documents that you put in at the beginning. I've put them in twice now. So
okay, great.
But I guess we can just open it up. And Justin, if you are here.
Justin is here, but I didn't know if he, I thought maybe he could field the chat. But if you've answered everything, anyone else have any questions, I guess?
Oh, here's one. We have a new one. So
okay, so go ahead. Go ahead, Melissa.
I was just going to read it. And
okay.
This is really important. Is the application open to all schools? We are a K-12 public charter school.
So this year, Mark, the application is only open to middle college high schools, early college high schools, alternative education high schools with dual enrollment. So next year, we'll go back to the comprehensive high schools that have dual enrollment. So this year, we're just alternating years just because we have a small group of readers, and it's kind of hard to find readers in the CDE with all the grants and everything that we're reading all the time. So that's why we decided to alternate years. So does that answer your question? Tamika,
yeah. We have somebody who had their hand up. I unmute. They were unmuted.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Hi, Abhi from Mead High School in Napa. So we just received the early college grants this past summer, so we're kind of in year 0. And so from what I understand, that we wouldn't be eligible for the award, but we're not a comprehensive high school because we have about 400 kids, and we do have, I think we're an alternative school with dual enrollment and have had it for a long time. How do I clarify where we land?
Okay, so, well, partly it would be in the name of, well, sort of, because not all early college and middle college high schools put that in their name. Melissa, do you want to help explain how you know if you're a middle college or an early college?
So I think in the past, it's been, again, as Diane said, if it's in the name. Not all alternative schools have it in the name. If your designation is an alternative school of choice, that's pretty important. That's written into this rubric and how you actually clarify yourself. Do you know if you are an alternative school of choice or if you're a comprehensive school?
Alternative school of choice.
Okay, then this is something that you qualify for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Even though we're kind of in year 0 of the early.
Right. Maybe so. Okay. Maybe in 2 years.
Okay.
And then Diane, there's a question.
Well, they are eligible to apply this year. It's just that because they're beginning their processes, they may not be exemplary quite yet, but they can apply.
Yes, that is true. I'm sorry. There is a question, and this is to everybody, but is there a limit to how many schools will be selected?
Tamika, that is a really good question. And I do have to say the goal is that there's not a limit right now. However, I'm trying to get the exemplary dual enrollment award and don't hold me to this because I'm only trying to do this, to get it in the California Schools Recognition Program. And so part of the criteria that I have to get a sponsor basically to pay for the award, the little plaque or award that you will receive at the California Recognition Schools Program dinner. And so right now there's not a limit, But if I get a sponsor and they say we're only going to give you $15,000, then I may have to limit how many awardees we can get based on that money, if that makes sense. So right now, I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's kind of my position right now. I don't want to limit it, but I also want it to be part of the California Schools Recognition Program. If we can get into there, that would be awesome. So
if I can chime in, I would say like you want to get as high a score as you can, right? We all want that. And your readers are pretty tough. And because we're like, this is the best of the best. And so, last year, Diane, can you just share? I mean, it was a different category, right? So it was comprehensive schools, but how many applicants there were about and versus how many were awarded?
So we did have 70 applicants last year, and we had 9 awardees. And we did decide to break off the score at, I believe, at 88. So anyone who got an 88% or above, we decided was exemplary. And so that's how we ended up deciding who got the exemplary award.
Thank you. I didn't even know you mentioned like a stipend or something for the school. Does the school get awarded anything, or is this more of just the recognition?
It's just the recognition. So okay. Right now they're just getting a banner. Okay. And then we'll probably have something for early college and middle colleges at the CCEMC conference in September. We'll have a little awardee ceremony. And you get lapel pins, a banner, and then if it's added into the California Schools Recognition Program, then each school and their college partner will get like a plaque or, the little kind of trophy that you get when you're a distinguished school, for example.
Thank you. A question.
Hello?
Hi. Oh, let's see. Maybe we're back. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I apologize. We're having technical issues. We have a unique situation where we started with a middle college program, about 15 years ago. It is over the years morphed into more of an early college program, but we have left the name because that's what the kids in the community is familiar with. It is, Sonora High School Middle College. Should I clarify that in the paperwork? Because when I'm doing the application, it appears that I'm not calling it the correct name.
I'm probably more of a stickler because I'm the ed code person. So I've been like, it can't be a middle college high school if it's not on a community college campus.
Right. And our program used to be, we just didn't change the name when we moved it back to our high school campus.
Right. So I wouldn't maybe you're not going to be, disqualified or anything, but you might want to just explain that just so maybe the reader knows like, oh, they really are an early college I'm sure everybody in their mind would say, oh, they're really an early college program, not a middle college program. But
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
As a reader, I would say be as clear as possible, like because we all do. I mean, we've been working in this field for many years, and so we all do a little eye roll when
right.
Clearly the wrong thing. We're like, and so you're like, I know it's wrong. It's how people know us.
Right.
It's cool. And then we go, oh, okay, they know. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions out there?
And the other thing I would like really ask folks to be clear as they are able to be is when we confuse programs for high schools, right? So an early college high school is a whole high school, right? And a middle college high school is a whole high school, and a middle college high school per legislation has to be on the campus of a college, right? And so just like, trying to be as clear as you can about those things, remember, we're reading tons of them. And what you don't want is you don't want the reader to say, they don't even know what they are. This is frustrating. But we realize that like the definitions, especially the definitions in ed code, might not completely reflect what common practice. So we know that, but as clear as you can be is helpful.
Perfect. Thank you. That helps a lot.
Awesome. Okay.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, so we're one of the ones who just received a grant, and so really doing a lot of more research, and so this is helpful. First of all, if you said it already, will we be able to get a copy of the recording and the slides?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yes. So I'm sure the CCEMC will post the recording and the slides on their website. Naomi, will CLP also do the same?
Oh, we'd be happy to. Just send us a recording. We'd be happy to cross post it, or we can just link to our colleagues. Yeah. Not a problem.
And then if you're on California Educators Together, the state's new platform, I do have a dual enrollment community group on there. And so, of course, the newsletter that you may have received, the dual enrollment program, the grant program, everything is on that community group, the dual enrollment community group. And so everything will be posted there as well if you're on it. I don't have the link handy right now, but it was in the newsletter as one of the resources too for dual enrollment.
Great. And then so I did have a couple more questions if you don't mind. I'm glad you explained the middle. You said middle college, it must be on the college campus. So does that mean the entire time they're there, or just those times they're taking the college courses?
That's a good question. I haven't seen, so I guess this comes with a program. So most of and Melissa, I'll turn this over to you, but most of from what I've seen, it is the actual school is on the campus of the community college. But Melissa, do you have anything to add to that?
Diane, I'll second what you said. The legislature, it's in ed code, and middle college, high school is on the campus of a college.
And we know that there are some middle college high schools out there that aren't on the campus, and we're not going to go close you down, so don't fear that.
Okay.
But
so we can still okay. Good.
Yes, yeah. We know that's out there. It's just that moving forward, we're going to, make sure that ed code is clear to everyone that a middle college high school is on the campus of a community college.
Okay, great. And then I had one question. This may not be the forum for it, so if it isn't, just let me know. I've been doing a lot of research on other districts, their early middle college, and some of them start in 6th grade. They're not really part of the early middle college, but they're working with students as early as 6th grade. And I'm trying to find out more about that. Is this the forum for it, or should I reach out to someone later?
You can probably reach out to Melissa. I do have to say that both in CCAP and in ed code for middle college and early college, and Melissa, if I overstep on your toes, just let me know. But the language in ed code talks about high school. So I know we've had a lot of people asking about, can we do a CCAP in middle school? I don't want to not encourage everybody, but I do know that the language in statute talks about high school. So Melissa or Naomi, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, it definitely does talk about high school for early college, middle college, and CCAP, but there is other forms of dual enrollment. So you can do a dual enrollment MOU it has different rules, different funding mechanisms, but that's something to talk through with your college partners. And if it's like our colleagues at East LA College do an after school robotics academy with 8th graders. They get college credit, and then they have a mirrored course for adult non-credit, so that their uncles and aunties and grandparents and parents can take a class with them. So there's some really cool and creative examples out there. But if you want to reach out, you can reach out to Melissa, you can reach out to myself. We can help you make sure you're in compliance. You're not breaking any of the rules.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Diane, can I take 2 seconds of personal privilege?
Sure, yes, of
I
course.
just want to shout out to Paul Natake. Hey, Paul. He's a brand new he's worked in Torrance Unified for many years, which is where my son goes to school, and he was my son's assistant principal, and now he's a principal at another Torrance high school. So
awesome. Thank you for the shout out, Naomi. Thank you. Good seeing you.
I sent you some messages in the chat. Reach out.
Awesome. Appreciate it. I'll take a look. Thank you so much. Sorry for arriving late. We just got out of a meeting a little late, and then we're still kind of in it, but I'm paying attention and listening, and hopefully I'll get a copy of the recording. But thank you. Really excited about our early college program, and we definitely plan to apply. So thank you.
Great.
And Naomi, Diane, just one more thing. So Arnold King just put in, and I do want to comment on this as well. So Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Jobs for the Future, 2005, in the statement says that the term early college was used loosely. And I will give a personal example of that. I was principal of an early college high school. I think the current principal is on the call right now. We were located on the actual physical campus as a startup. We've never been located anywhere else. We were always on a college campus. We were never called middle college. It has always been early college. So yes, the terms are a little loose, but in your narratives, to be exemplary, please describe any discrepancies so that we know that you know the history of how you got to where you're at. So
perfect. Thank you. Okay, before I turn it over to Justin to close us out here, I do want to just put in another personal thing. If you did apply for the Middle College, Early College grant or CCAP grant or both grants, please, and you haven't turned in your baseline data, please make sure you go in and complete your baseline data. It was due October 31st. Out of over 600, I think we have 600 and I don't remember the 32 or something grantees for both programs. Only 483 have turned in their baseline data. And this is going to be important because we're going to show how well you guys use this money to grow your programs to the legislature so that hopefully in the future they'll say, wow, they did such an awesome job. Let's give them some more money. So that's really the purpose of the baseline data. So I really need to get it in from you. Viola, if you want a copy, will you get a copy of our baseline data after submitting it? So I do have, yes, when it comes in to me at SurveyMonkey. Do you need a copy? Is that what you're asking?
I'm so sorry. I meant to type, will we get a copy after submitting?
If you want a copy, just email me and I can send you the spreadsheet back to you. This was my first kind of round with SurveyMonkey because Snap Survey didn't quite do what I wanted it to do. So I'm learning about SurveyMonkey as I go along as well. So I do know how to export to a CSV or Excel file now, the individual data. So if you need that back, let me know. I'll probably get tons of emails, but that's okay. That's what I'm here for, to help you all out. So let me know and I can give it back, get it for you. And then, the next in 2 years, hopefully. And just as a note, so the baseline, right now in statute, your midterm or mid-project data is due in June. Okay, June, I think the GAN, we put June 15th. Because it's due to the legislator June 30th. So someone didn't add their dates right because which I shouldn't complain because I messed up on this webinar, so it happens. But the mid-project report should really be due in June of 2025. So I have submitted a correction to the legislature. And then I've also asked instead of June, because I did hear from some of you that we won't have that data. And obviously you won't have the data in June. So I have submitted that a revision be made so that the mid-project data is due like October 1st of 2025, and then October 1st of 2027. So just so you know, and we may not know until the May revise. So it may be a last minute thing where it's like, okay, we don't have to worry about the data. Okay, just so you know that. Okay. Okay, so Justin, I want to make sure Justin gets introduced here, because I'm sure a lot of you, if you applied for the grants, you have emailed with him. So I'm going to hand it over to Justin to, well, let me do the first thing, Justin, and then I'll hand it over to you. How about that? So I have to promote this. So with some grant money that I got from a private grant, I went around to the 9 exemplary schools from last year, and I created a video to help support schools who want to become exemplary. Well, probably everyone does, but who want to become exemplary in their dual enrollment. So you can watch it here at Vimeo. And Naomi just dropped it in the chat. It turned out, it was really like a labor of love, but I think it turned out really well. And so I hope you watch it and can learn from it. Anyway, also, just so you know, next year I am going to add a student voice section. I have more grant money for next year, and so I will add that component on as well. So anyway, I'll turn it over to Justin for next steps, and if you have further questions, go ahead, Justin.
Hi, everybody. So basically, for all of the next steps, like Diane was saying, there's the link right there in that slide to watch the exemplary dual enrollment video. Then also you're going to want to gather all of your evidence, and essentially after that, write your narrative, and all of the applications that you're going to put forward must be submitted by 4 p.m. on November 30th, and that time is important. It has to be by 4 p.m. because we have to manually turn that off. So it can't be close of business. It has to be before 4 p.m. Otherwise, it will not be accepted.
And just again, remember to gather your evidence and make it into one PDF, because that is all you're going to be. The SNAP survey is a very simple program. And so it is only going to accept one upload, and it needs to be I believe I said 20 megabytes in my opening slide. So make sure you make one PDF of everything. We practiced with it. It's a lot of pages, so don't worry about that. But have your evidence ready, and then go in and write your narrative, because it is going to ask you first thing to upload your document. And then finally, Justin, sorry.
No worries. And again, if you have any questions, you can always email the Exemplary Dual Enrollment Award, and the email address is right there in the slide, Exemplary Dual Enrollment Award @cde.ca.gov. And I will also add it, always refer to the RFA, and please again check the rubric for any types of clarifying things on there as well, because that's the first thing that we always look at as readers is the rubric when we're scoring those things. So look at RFA, the scoring rubric, and any questions, the Exemplary Dual Enrollment Award @cde.ca.gov.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Naomi, also for joining me in the webinar today. We're going to have another webinar at 1. So if you didn't get enough of us, you can stay on, and we'll have webinar number 2 at 1 o'clock. If you have any questions, please use the email box. If you have grant questions, make sure you use the CCAP grant at cde.ca.gov, or the MCEC grant at cde.ca.gov, and Justin and I monitor that box, so we'll be sure to get back to you as soon as we can. Okay, thank you all, and good luck.